Hello, my name's Richard Felix and I'm Britain's most haunted historian. I'm here in Chester today and with me is Tom Jones. Hi Tom.
Hi Richard.
Now you are a green badge guide.
That's right,
but you
yes.
do history walks, but you also do an awful lot of ghost walks around the city.
Indeed so, I specialise in the city of Chester as a green badge guide, and you're quite right, the history tours and the ghost tours too.
Now behind us, of course, the cathedral. We have a real Roman wall here, and of course Chester claims to be one of the most haunted cities in the whole of Great Britain.
That's correct, yeah.
Why?
Well, I'd like to say to you, to answer that question, is we've got such a long, detailed history.
Yeah.
There's so many things that have happened here. We had the Romans here for almost 3 centuries.
Mm-hmm.
The 2nd Legion, followed by the 20th Legion of the Roman army. Then we had the Saxons came here in the 7th century. A few centuries later, we had the Normans. William the Conqueror came here in 1070.
Really?
4 years after the Battle of Hastings.
Yeah.
Following on from that, the next real major time of upheaval, if you like, would have been in the English Civil War.
Yes.
Starting in 1642, and Chester was a royalist city, and many things happened both during the Civil War and in those other periods I've mentioned already, which shaped the city as you see it today.
And of course you also had Edward I, and when he came bashing the Welsh, for want of a better word.
Yes.
And you have a very strange law which is still operational, I believe, to this day.
The law which has never been repealed,
Yeah.
Richard, which kind of gives the right to Cestrians born in this city to dispatch, if you like, to deal with any Welsh people caught within the city, found within the city walls after 9 o'clock at night.
Wow.
They can be dealt with by means of bow and arrow.
Even to this day.
To this day, in theory. I have to say, my family are half Welsh, half English, so I've got mixed views about it.
Of course, yeah. But I mean, the strange thing is that it does have so many ghost stories.
Yes.
I personally am a great believer in this stone tape theory, especially castles, stone-built buildings that hold, for want of a better word, a recording, an echo from the past.
Yes.
But you've got more than just stone buildings and stone walls.
Oh, indeed. So, yes, this red sandstone that you see all around Chester, so many of the buildings are made of, was actually, if I can take you right back again, once again to the Roman times, just 2,000 years ago, one of the reasons the Romans set their fortress in this site was there was a sandstone plateau, an outcrop of sandstone, which they built their fortress on. So everywhere underneath the city of Chester, we have sandstone bedrock.
So Chester is built on rock, on sandstone.
Absolutely, that's so, yes.
So in my opinion, that's what, because you see, it contains silica, amongst other things, which is very similar to what recording tapes have, you see. And I genuinely believe that that's probably why you get so many, for want of a better word, echoes from the past.
Yes.
Because it's recorded in what you're actually built on.
Yes.
But we're here, a very interesting place to start. This is King Charles's Tower.
That's right, on the northeastern corner of the
Let's go in and have a look, because this again must contain some memories, to say the least, yeah?
Oh, indeed so, yeah. It's a very special place, but the reason that Chester was, as a city, it's a walled city. It was surrounded by towers right back in the Roman times, over 20 towers.
Yeah.
They were eventually rebuilt in stone. They were originally wood.
Yeah.
But it's in this particular tower that King Charles I, during a great siege of Chester, came to the city to try to raise morale of the inhabitants. And he witnessed a great battle which took place near to Chester, and he witnessed it from the top of this tower, this very tower.
Right. So that obviously leads to, if you like, the first ghost story, because people say, lots of people that come into this place, that there's a strange sense of foreboding in here, of I don't know, pending disaster. And I presume it may well be the thoughts of King Charles I when he stood here and watched his army defeated. Because at the end of the day, we're talking of 1645, it was all over by 1646.
Yes, that's right.
And I suppose you could say that after he witnessed the defeat of his army in here, it's probably all over for the king.
It was getting very near the end, I'm sure. He witnessed his army being defeated at Roughton Moor from this tower. But it got even worse on that day for King Charles. He moved from here to the Cathedral Tower to witness some more of the action going on.
Yeah.
And it was there, an army captain who stood alongside the king was actually killed by a sniper's bullet. Or
Good Lord, next to the king?
He stood right next to the king.
Wow.
So the king had a very close escape, very lucky escape.
Here in Chester.
Yes, and that's September Day,
Wow.
1645.
Well, we've got an awful lot to see. phenomenal amount of places to go. So,
Yeah, indeed so.
shall we start?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Idea, Richard, yeah.
You lead on. You know the way.
Thank you. And the boot's haunted.
What, this? Oh, shall we do that now?
Yeah, why not?
Okay,
Yeah, let's do that now.
Okay.
Okay. So, you got the boot in. 1643 is the date marked on there.
Yes.
This is actually the meeting place for King Charles I's troops during the English Civil War.
Wow.
They actually came to that place shortly after the English Civil War was over. The boot inn became used for a different purpose, and this led to its haunting, we believe.
Yeah.
Chester's very well known for its horse racing. We've got one of the oldest racing circuits here in the country, Chester. And the business of horse trading used to take place in that pub. And if you go to this day to the back of the boot inn, right to the rear of the building, you'll see the remnants of some booths with curtains. And the horse traders were able to go into these booths, draw the curtains, and conduct the business of horse trading in relative privacy. However, the potential for that area was realised by ladies of a certain profession.
Of the night.
Of the night.
Yeah.
Yes. Who realised that they could also conduct their business in relative privacy.
In the booths?
The end of I hasten to add, not anymore to this day,
No.
but certainly in the 17th into the 18th century, the place acquired a certain notoriety. Now, what happens today is when the place is very, very quiet, all the customers are gone, the place is in absolute silence, you can sometimes hear the sound of female laughter and the chinking of glasses in the rear of the pub, in that area where those booths were.
Oh, I say.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So you see how many people would walk by or even go in to buy, well, accessories and not know the incredible history of that place.
Absolutely incredible history of the building.
That's what it's all
And
about.
it's still in evidence today. You can still go to the back of the building and see where those booths used to be.
That's amazing. Fantastic. Right, on we go.
Okay.
Right, well, we're inside the boot, and we've actually had to come upstairs, which I find quite amazing.
That's right up onto the old road system of Chester.
Yeah, that is quite... that's spectacular, but is there anywhere else in the country like it? I've never seen anything.
The roads, they date from 1277, from the time of Edward I, and they are totally unique, not just in the country, but in the world.
Oh my goodness. So we're right at the back, and this is the area, this is the haunted area.
This is the haunted area of the pub. This is where the horse trading used to take place.
Yeah.
We're going now into the 18th century now. We've left the Civil War behind, and the horse trading took place, and soon after, the ladies of the night started to ply their trade here in this area of the pub. Yeah.
Amazing. And just one little bit left, an echo from the past, if you like, because we've actually got one of the original curtain booths.
That's right, yeah, one of the curtain booths. There were many more than this originally, but this has been retained really as a link between the past and the present.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah, thank
I
goodness.
mean,
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
often people come in, rip out everything, put modern stuff in, but this is so as it was.
Yes,
It's wonderful,
right,
isn't it?
yeah. Going right back to the 18th, even into the 17th century.
Fantastic.
Yeah. This place is used as a meeting place for the soldiers of King Charles I.
Yeah, just think of what stories this can still tell.
Yes, and it still tries to tell the stories, I believe.
Yeah.
In those echoes, those distant echoes which are coming through to us from all those centuries ago.
Fantastic. Now, Tom, this is the amazing thing about Chester, because we've actually come upstairs, and there are two levels of shops. The boot is here, upstairs.
Yes, that's right.
And as we can see across the road, we have a sort of an extra street or pavement area upstairs.
Yes.
Why?
Well, the reason why, these are what we call the rows. We have two rows of shops, one, as you say, at street level and another one at first floor level.
Yeah.
And this dates back to the time of King Edward I in 1277.
Right.
He brought his army of probably over 20,000 people to this region. And he was going to
bash the Welsh.
To bash the Welsh. He had a problem with the Welsh prince, Llewellyn ap Griffith. 1277 he started his campaign. He brought his army here, he brought his masons and carpenters. They were going to build a series of castles, great castles in North Wales.
Yes.
Carnarvon Castle, Harlech Castle, all these huge castles. But during the winter months, everything came to a halt. And in the winter months, everybody piled into this place. It became a boom town for 70 years.
Of course, yes,
70-year period.
A garrison town.
A garrison town, but huge amount of of income here, the possibility to make money for the medieval merchants who were attracted to the city and came here and started to build their medieval style houses to do their trade from. And they would have a cellar and a shop above the cellar and living accommodation above and behind the shop. But there was a problem. When they started to dig out the ground for their cellars, they hit sandstone. The Romans originally came here and built their fortress on a sandstone outcrop. So they didn't have time to complete the cellars.
So in order to compensate for that, they actually built up rather than down.
Yes, they did. And what we got at street level now were originally half-depth cellars. They were only half dug out. And very quickly, within that period, in the 13th into the 14th century, the merchants decided to convert their cellars into shops, even then.
Right.
So we've had two levels, two rows of shops.
So all the shops down below are actually converted cellars?
Yes, and you can see that they were, because you go down steps to go to the cellars, 3 or 4 steps to go down just slightly into those shops.
Wow. So this is unique, obviously, to Great Britain.
It is unique to Great Britain, and also it's unique in the world.
Wow.
It exists nowhere else in the world.
Amazing.
Okay, Richard, here we are outside the Blue Bell. It's one of Chester's extremely good restaurants.
Yes.
It's also got a fascinating history to it. This is the site of one of the hauntings. It's famous around Chester.
Now this is very, very haunted building, isn't it?
Very much indeed, yes it is, Shall we go inside and have a look?
Let's just do that.
Okay.
Okay, well, we've managed to gain access, even though it's extremely busy. It's lunchtime, and we're in the Blue Bell.
Yes, that's right.
They tell me that up here, apparently, at one time it was something like 10 bedrooms. And here we are looking out onto the street.
Yeah, that's Northgate Street out there, Northgate Street in Chester.
Yeah. And is this probably where the incident took place, the original incident, do you think?
Yeah, we're talking now about something which this building, the bell as was called in medieval times.
Because it goes back to 1494, doesn't it?
It was licensed in 1494 as the building. The building goes back even beyond that to the 13th century. But it's got a certain notoriety in Chester.
Yeah.
This is a haunted building, and it's one of the most famous hauntings in Chester.
Yep.
It concerns a young girl. Her name is Henrietta.
Right.
And we need to go forward from that time when the building was licensed to the time of the English Civil War, and Chester was a royalist city.
Yes.
It supported King Charles I, and we had King Charles I brought his army in 1645 to Chester in readiness for a great battle which was brewing at a place called Rowton Moor.
Yes.
And it's only about 3 miles in that direction, quite close to Chester. The parliamentarians were massing there, and King Charles had his army here. He was preparing them. Now, some of the soldiers formed friendships with the local population.
Of course.
There was a young girl, a beautiful young girl, her name was Henrietta, who lived in this place, in this building, and she'd become the girlfriend of one of the soldiers.
Yep.
September the 24th, 1645, the Battle of Rowton Moor took place. She waved her boyfriend off to battle that day.
Probably from this window?
Maybe from this window. Full, no doubt, of trepidation for what might happen.
Yeah.
At about midday that day, the news started to filter back from the battlefield that things were going very badly for King Charles I and his men. 6,000 men he committed to battle that day. And in one day's battle, terrible, bloody battle, he lost 2,000 of his soldiers.
Yeah.
Now, Henrietta, when this news started to come through that things were going very badly, apparently she was pacing up and down the upper floor of this building, where we are now, pacing up and down, very, very fearful. But it was about 10 o'clock at night when a messenger came, and he delivered the news that Henrietta had feared so much all day, that a soldier boyfriend had been slain and killed in the battlefield. She did one thing, Richard, which was, if you can only imagine the state she must have been in. She ran down from this first floor, down to the cellar of the building, and she committed suicide. With no delay whatsoever. And then for about 10 years, the place, Chester, was recovering after that terrible period in our history. And then after 10 years or so, the hauntings started.
Oh, right.
And the hauntings, the ghost of Henrietta can still be seen to this day, sometimes from this window, sometimes from some of the other first floor windows. She has long blonde hair, a long cream dress. She's very, very pretty. And she appears at the window waiting. And people who've seen her are aware that she's waiting. They sense this feeling of expectation. She's waiting. Indeed, she's waiting for a soldier boyfriend.
Who will never return.
She will wait for all eternity. It's very sad.
isn't it? Now they've told us that we can actually go down and have a look into the cellar,
Yeah,
which is really quite something, because you've never been down there before, have you?
First for me too. Yes,
So,
I'm really looking forward to it.
Come on then.
Okay, let's go.
Right, now, whatever you do, more than me, Tom. You're a bit bigger than I am. Mind your head. It's extremely low.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, this is the first time that you, the man that does the ghost tours around Chester, have actually been here.
It is. It's a fantastic opportunity. Yeah,
That
I'm
is
really
amazing.
pleased to be here today.
Oh, yeah. Good, isn't it? Very atmospheric.
The many times I've taken groups around Chester and walked past this building, told them about what happened here, the dreadful events.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
That's marvellous. So she would have committed suicide here, I presume,
Yes.
in the cellar.
She would have learned the news of her soldier boyfriend having been killed on that battlefield, Roughton Moor, 3 miles away.
Yeah.
Within minutes, we know that within minutes she ran down to the cellar where we are now and committed suicide.
We don't know how, do we?
We don't know how. We're not sure how. It wasn't recorded.
No.
Chester was in a chaotic condition
yeah.
after the Civil War, so all these things which would like to have been recorded were not recorded well enough for us to know.
Yeah. I think the fabulous thing about this story is that you can authenticate it. I mean, there's a reason for her haunting. Number one, she's waiting for a boyfriend who didn't return, and number two, because she committed suicide, because she committed what in those days was a terrible crime against God.
Yes.
She, I believe, will still be lingering because she daren't go to wherever you should go.
Yes.
Because of the crime she committed,
That's
and being sort of destined for hellfire, eternal damnation. So in other words, she probably chooses to linger, to stay here.
Yes, well, we've got three elements to the story. We've got the gradual build-up of a fear, of emotions during that day, that dreadful September day, all those centuries ago. And then to learn the news that a soldier boyfriend had been killed.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, she just ran down here, and on top of that, if you like, unfinished business, that she knew at that stage a soldier boyfriend would never return.
Yeah.
She came down here and ended her life.
Total despair.
Total
And
despair.
to take your own life was a terrible thing then.
Yes, indeed.
I was just talking to the landlady upstairs, and I said, "Have you seen anything?" She said, "Well, I've actually personally not seen anything, but frequently," she says, "when I'm in this cellar, she says, someone whispers my name." And she's obviously, usual thing, I think it's someone up there. She said, "I just pop up the stairs to have a look. There's never anyone there."
Yeah.
It must be Henrietta.
I'm sure it is Henrietta contacting people.
Yeah, what a fantastic place.
Yes, it's superb.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, Tom, now this to me is Chester, it's gates.
Yes, indeed, Richard. This is the north gate of Chester, the northern entrance into the city, and the northern entrance into the Roman fortress of Diva. The Porta Decumana, that's what the Romans would have called it. It was built in 1810. 1808, 2 years previously, a building which was on this site was demolished.
Yeah.
Northgate Prison.
Right.
Northgate Prison, one of the places of public execution in Chester. It was a place with a really, really bad reputation, notorious for its ill treatment of prisoners. We had a form of dead men's room here.
Like a condemned cell, if you like.
Like a condemned cell. It was called Little Ease.
Oh gosh.
Speciality of Little Ease. It was 4'6" high, maximum.
Yeah.
18 inches wide, maximum. Had no windows. Prisoners would be squeezed into that tiny, virtually airless, windowless space.
Yeah.
Richard Sale, a Quaker gentleman, he was put into there. He was rather portly, it was reported. 4 jailers squeezed him into Little Ease. He passed away in that cell. He didn't even make it to the gallows. When the prison itself was demolished, and people around about were relieved that it had gone.
I can imagine, yes.
Terrible place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they couldn't get rid of Little Ease. It was impossible to get rid of Little Ease.
Because it's obviously in the sandstone.
It was built in the manner of a dungeon in
Yeah.
sandstone bedrock underneath the prison. All they could do was fill it with rubble. Now, imagine that you're in this area at night when it's absolutely quiet. Very rare.
Yes,
City,
yes.
modern city. When it's absolutely quiet, people have heard a terrible sound, a terrible moaning sound. It's very, very quiet indeed. But those people who have heard it say they never want to hear that sound ever again in their lives. But the strange thing is, to those people who don't know the background to this place, this site, they say that the sound appears to emanate, to come from the ground. that they're standing on. The ground that we're standing on, Richard.
Yeah. So in other words, it's coming from Little Ease.
It's coming from Little Ease, still down there, still maybe waiting to welcome someone one day.
Wow. Nice one.
Okay, Richard, well, we're here outside the Bear and Billet in Lower Bridge Street in Chester. It's a really fine building, built in 1664, so it's 17th century building. Absolutely incredible, in fantastic condition. It was called the Bear and Billet for many, many years. Then it became Benson's of the Billet.
Right.
We're very pleased indeed to know that it's becoming once again the Bear and Billet.
Thank goodness. Yeah, that's great.
But it was a building, it's one of the last timber frame townhouses built in Great Britain.
Good grief.
Built for the Earl of Shrewsbury. And the Earl of Shrewsbury had bought the rights to levy taxes on goods brought into the city through the bridge gate, just down there.
Yeah.
And he gave his bailiff the job of collecting the taxes. And his bailiff, the Earl of Shrewsbury's bailiff, actually lived in this building from 1664. And there is quite a story connected with the building from that time.
Of course, I mean, a place of this antiquity has to be haunted, let's be honest about it.
Indeed so, and this one is.
Yeah, now apparently they're turning it back into a pub,
yes,
the Bear and Billet, which is wonderful. They're working on it at the moment, but they've said we can actually go in and actually do the stories from upstairs. So, shall we go in and have a look?
Good idea,
okay.
Richard. Yeah, let's go.
Right, Tom, well, we're inside the Bear and Billet. We're right at the very top. This is probably the room where that particular incident took place. We're not sure, of course.
We cannot be sure.
But what happened?
Well, what happened? This place was built as a townhouse for the Earl of Shrewsbury,
Yep.
who came to Chester. And he bought the rights to levy taxes on goods brought into the city through the bridge gate, which is just outside the place. Now, his bailiff was given the powers to levy those taxes, to actually do the practical work of collecting the taxes. He was a terrible man to work for. He had a young girl who worked in this building. She worked here, she cleaned the building. She could never do anything right for him. She could never do things right. So one day he decided to teach her a lesson, and apparently this was the room that she was locked into. He locked that young girl into a room, and then something happened. He was called down to see his master, the Earl of Shrewsbury. There were problems on the estate, and he left the building. Off he went on horseback, left Chester to go to Shrewsbury. He didn't come back for quite a number of days. And when he came back, on his way back, he realised to his horror that he'd left the young girl all alone in the building, in this room, we believe. When he came back, he raced into the building, raced upstairs, found the building. Gosh. And it's since then that the hauntings of the building started.
And she still haunts the place to this day, apparently.
The place to this day. Most recently, there was a proprietor of the building who had an answering machine, an everyday modern piece of equipment. And he'd have the answering machine calls on there, 4 or 5 calls, and he'd play them back. But he came to fear that answering machine. Sometimes we press and it's the next call, and it would be the everyday calls that we have. This is John, will you ring you back, whatever. Sometimes, completely inevitably, one of those messages would not be a call from someone, and for him, it would be the screams of that servant girl in the late 17th century.
Wow. Actually recorded on the
tape,
on the answer phone. Cool, blimey. And of course, they're actually doing the place up now.
Exactly.
And it's nice to know that it's going to become a pub again. It's going to be the Bear and Billet, which is great news.
It's great news for Chester.
Absolutely. And something we were talking about earlier, I was saying the number of builders that actually see ghosts. And this place is actually full of decorators, builders, carpenters, and they're telling us stories that have happened. Apparently someone was in here the other night with a camera. They got 31 orbs on cameras going up the stairs and all sorts of things. And they were just telling us that the doors rattle of their own accord. The temperature drops to such an extent that you can actually see people's breath.
Yes, yes.
Okay, it's March and it's cold, but temperature doesn't drop like that in a building.
Not that cold.
No, so I mean, it's obviously an ongoing thing, and this place is obviously still very active.
Very active, and it's something we're finding in other buildings in Chester too. When building work is done, it seems as if the fabric of the building is disturbed in quite a fundamental way, and this seems to provoke these incidents.
Yeah. Yes, but just looking at the architecture in here, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, this is a storage loft, isn't it?
This was intended to be a storage loft.
I mean, look at this.
This is unique in Chester, and it did cause a lot of controversy when the building was built back in 1664.
Yeah.
That people said, well, this storage loft in the top of a building is something which belongs maybe more to a house in Amsterdam.
Oh yeah, I mean, just look at this.
And it's fantastic.
It's the only one in Chester.
The only one in Chester.
And here you are. You can look out on Chester and the Oldie Bridge there.
Oldie Bridge down there.
I mean, just look at that. It's absolutely amazing, isn't it? Still preserved to this day.
Yes. And it was the Oldie Bridge, that gateway, the bridge gate, where the goods were brought in, and the bailiff would collect taxes.
Really?
Goods brought into the city back in the 17th century.
Amazing. Shall we wander down and have a look at that bridge?
Excellent, yeah, it'd be a good idea.
Okay, perhaps I better close this first.
Yes, Oh, Richard, well, we're on this really interesting part of Chester now. Just behind us, we've got the tower which is called Bonewaldthorns Tower.
Good grief.
It's a name which is almost impossible to pronounce.
Bonewaldthorn.
Bonewaldthorns Tower.
Yes.
And we're actually walking now down some steps and onto a spur wall which connects that tower with another tower called the Water Tower.
Right.
Now, the Water Tower signifies that that tower was once actually situated within the River Dee. The River Dee was once a lot wider than it is now, much, much deeper and wider. And this area we're in now, the area of Chester, forms part of a giant tidal basin. The Romans actually used this part of Chester for their shipping when it became a port.
Tell me, I mean, how much of this wall is it Roman?
This wall we're actually on now is actually Roman origin.
Wow. So we're talking Roman stone?
Roman stone, sandstone of the region.
Yeah.
As we walk down at each side of this spur wall, we have a very flat area because it was part of the tidal basin.
Yeah.
And over to our left now, just over there, in that particular area, that was, if I could take it back to just after the Civil War, the English Civil War.
Yep.
Chester, we had a dreadful time in the Civil War. It all finished for us in Chester 1646. Just a few years later, Chester was struck by the plague, among many other towns in Britain. Now, that area over there is the site of, it's one of the plague victims' burial grounds.
A plague pit?
Plague pit, basically. Although it's a very tranquil, peaceful spot now, you need to remember that underneath there we have 2,000 victims of the plague in Chester. There.
Wow.
Right over
now,
there.
interesting point, I don't know whether you know this, but the actual origins of Count Dracula, the undead and the living dead, come from plague victims and plague pits, because one of the symptoms of this plague, this bubonic plague, was a long deep sleep, a coma, before death. An awful lot of people were actually buried alive.
Yes.
And there are reports in various places, I presume including Chester, of hands appearing out of the soil of their shallow graves and people clawing their way out of their shallow graves alive.
I'd like to think we were more careful than that in Chester, but of course I can't know that.
No, but as I say, that is one of the origins, as I say, of vampires, Dracula and the undead. But on with your stories.
Yes. Well, we're just heading away now. The Water Tower, this was built in the 14th century, while the River Dee was still coming up to this spot, and it allowed the citizens of Chester to keep a lookout on the shipping which was coming in and out, and certainly look out for any possibility of invasion.
Of course,
invasion was a threat.
Via the main artery, which of course was the River Dee.
By the River Dee, yes.
So this tower would actually have been built somehow in the water?
Yes,
or on the...
Most of the time the water would have been lapping around the base of this tower, maybe 2 or 3 metres deep when the tide was high.
Good Lord.
This was part of a giant tidal basin, so that the shipping could actually come into here.
Yeah.
So this is part of a lookout point. This could allow the city of Chester to control the shipping. And actually to say, is this shipping allowed to come into the city?
Yes.
Has it paid the taxes or whatever were necessary? And in actual fact, more than anything else, is it safe?
Of course.
Do they represent a threat?
Yeah, and of course there was a lot of threat from invaders.
Yes, we had the Irish Sea Vikings. They would come in and
that
they would
amazing.
raid. They would try to carry out raids on this particular part of the countryside.
And you were telling me earlier that there was actually a Danish community in Chester?
Yeah, there was a Danish community. It's actually set up in Lower Bridge Street.
Yeah.
And we have a church, we have the parish, St Olav's Parish,
Good
which
Lord.
gives us a link back to the time of our Danish community.
But there was no battle or anything like that that we know of here?
That we know of, no battle that took place.
Yeah, so it was a peaceful invasion, if you like.
Well, yeah, there was a lady, Æthelflæda, strange Saxon name.
Yeah.
She was the daughter of King Alfred the Great, and she came to Chester and she extended part of the city walls down to the river as part of the perhaps a chain of fortified towns.
Defence against the Vikings.
Against the Danish armies, the Vikings who were coming into the country around about the 10th century.
Wow. Now, do you have a ghost story?
Well, I believe one of my colleagues has got a ghost story.
Well, that's right, because that's what I was exactly going to say to you, because I was talking to Anne this morning before we started. Now, she is the lady that I presume almost started ghost tours 30-odd years ago in Chester, and she was the person that actually took the Pitkin Guide people around on one of the original tours, and she was telling me that there's a story of the watchman here that actually used to obviously watch out for invading Vikings and Irish pirates and anybody else for that matter.
Right,
and one day he actually left his post to go visit his girlfriend and was captured, caught by the Vikings. And they actually staked him out where the River Dee, because it is tidal, isn't it?
Tidal,
so it is correct.
The tide would come in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would ebb and flow.
Well, they staked him on the shore.
Yes.
And of course, the tide came in and he was drowned.
He was drowned, yes.
And she says that on frequent occasions, people have reported seeing a figure wandering around the area of the watchtower, and they believe it to be that watchman that was actually drowned, which is interesting because, as I say, you all have different tales, don't you?
Indeed, so we all have different tales and experiences around the city of Chester. Being guides of Chester, it does actually get you very, very close to some of the historical sites, but also some of the sites which are most, if you like, active in the sense of the inexplicable.
Yes.
Some people call it the supernatural.
Yeah.
So we do all have. You could go on several ghost tours of Chester and hear different stories,
which is great.
There are many different stories here.
And with me now is Claire, and you're another of the ghost hunter tour guides of Chester. And you've brought me here to something that looks, well, it looks comparatively modern, to be honest with you.
It is, but very deceptive. There's an older part of the building the other side.
Right, and this is it, Tonic?
That's it, Tonic Bar, and probably one of my favourite haunted places in Chester.
Right, now we didn't think we were going to get in because apparently it's a building site inside.
There's a lot of building work going on.
Whether we're going to have to wear hard hats, I don't know, but they have said they'll let us in.
They have.
So, but they've said cellar only, so...
we're going to explore the cellar. It's meant to be a very haunted place.
OK, come on then, in we go. Now, Claire, we're actually down below. We're in the cellars underneath Tonic.
We are.
I presume there's a reason for that.
We are. Now, this whole building is very haunted. And the upstairs area is haunted by the ghost of a grey lady.
Yeah.
She's quite often seen in one of the doorways with her figure hanging. Now, it's said that she was the nanny to 2 children, and the children can be heard running around and laughing and joking. But her apparition is a little bit more scary.
I can imagine, actually. It's sort of... When you say hanging, you don't mean as if it's hanged itself and it's...
Apparently the figure looks as though it's hanging from a beam above a door, and with her feet definitely quite above a long way off the floor.
In other words, there's every possibility she may well have committed suicide in this house.
Suicide and was hung there in that doorway.
Hence the fact that she still haunts the place.
That's right. Now, this cellar is also haunted,
yes,
and apparently by a man. Yes, he only appears to ladies, and he likes to play tricks on them. Apparently, people who work here, when they come down here to change barrels and to get bottles, the lights quite often flash on and off. But the interesting thing here is this cellar. There are blocked off corridors which we think go underneath Chester and come up in the cathedral area.
Crikey! But unfortunately, we can't get through.
We can't. They're all blocked off these days. I'm sorry.
Nobody got a sledgehammer with them, I suppose.
Maybe we should try the builders.
Shall we go and do that?
I think we should.
OK. Well, we've been in the cellar, but we didn't think we were going to get up here. You were dead excited about bringing me here because you wanted to...
I'm very excited here, and I say you're a very brave man to stand in that doorway, because this is where the lady's seen hanging.
Thank you.
Move out of the way.
But we didn't think we were going to get here, but the guys very kindly let us actually come up here.
That's it. The builders couldn't find a sledgehammer to break through those walls downstairs, but they have let us come up here.
And this is where she's seen?
This is where she's seen, just here in this doorway. The footsteps of the children playing are also heard up here on this floor.
Oh, really? And that's very interesting, because whenever this place is being done up at the moment, and I say frequently, builders often see ghosts, demolition people see ghosts,
right.
And I actually just asked one of the chaps, has anything happened? And his first comment was the usual, well, no, not really. Oh, well, strangely enough, on a couple of occasions, very recently, we've heard footsteps up here on the top floor, and because the officers are up here, they think someone's broken in. They come upstairs, look round, see who's here. Guess what? Usual story.
Nothing.
Nobody here. So it just makes you wonder, doesn't it?
That's it, and this story has been passed on to me by lots of people, not only that have worked here recently, but also that have worked here many years ago, and they all tell exactly the same story, with the same shadow here and the same footsteps up on this floor as well.
So it sounds to me as if that's who they've heard.
I think so.
The children. And guess what, Claire? More builders.
Another set of builders.
Can't believe it. Now look, we're standing underneath a pub sign, but it's no longer a pub.
No, it's actually a clothes shop now.
Right, and what was this?
This was actually Barlow's, an old pub.
Oh right, now I've heard of that. Now in your ratings for Haunted Chester, how high does this rate?
This comes fairly high up the list.
Really?
Only one ghost in there, but he's a very busy man.
And this is the man that never wanted to leave his pub?
That's right, he was a landlord here, never wanted to leave his pub, and he's never believed that landlords who have come since him have done a good enough job.
Really? Now again, we've somehow managed to get inside.
That's right.
The builders are working hard, but they've said we can go in and have a look.
That's right. Should we go and have a look?
Yeah. Now I have to say, Claire, they warned me about cobwebs.
I found
but
all
I've
the
never.
best places to
I know you do. I don't think I've ever seen quite so many cobwebs in a place before. We're in Barlow's, aren't we? We're down below, obviously. It's pretty obvious we're in the cellars. So I mean, what happened here?
I mean, this used to be a pub, it's now a clothes shop, but this building is haunted by one of the first landlords. The pub was eventually named after him, and it was called Barlow's.
Yeah.
His name was George Barlow.
And does he still haunt the place?
He still haunts the place, and we hoped that after this had closed down, it stopped operating as a pub, that he'd finally find peace. But apparently he's not happy with the building work that's taking place here at the moment.
Well, do you know, most of the places we've been in today has builders in, and
That's
every
right.
time I keep saying, builders see ghosts. Now, they say here they've seen absolutely nothing, but apparently the builders before...
That's right. A couple of years ago this place was converted, and the builders then saw and heard very strange things. There was bangs, there was knocks, things went missing, things were moved, and upstairs on the top floor, which hopefully we'll be able to go to later, curtains blow without any sign of a draft.
Wow. And what about the landlord's son? Because something happened to him down here in the cellar, did it not?
That's right. One of the last landlords of this pub, his son was down here in the cellar. Behind me used to be a big wooden door. This was really, really stiff and would never move. Now, he came down here one night to change a barrel, and all of a sudden the door slammed shut behind him, and he couldn't get back out again.
Wow. And it was actually stuck. He couldn't get out.
He was stuck here in the cellar, and the door wouldn't open to let him back out again.
And he was found next morning?
He was found the next morning. I'm not sure whether he made his escape, perhaps through the barrel hatch just behind us there.
Wow. Amazing. So, shall we... I mean, there's lots of bangs, obviously, but the builders are in, so, you know, that's not supernatural. But shall we go up, see if we can actually find the upstairs? Because apparently that is quite atmospheric,
It's
isn't it?
very atmospheric, and fewer cobwebs, I believe.
Great. Let's go and have a look. Right, now, thanks to our builder friends yet again...
We've been allowed to come up here.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as atmospheric as this.
It's an amazing
for a long
place.
time. I mean, the wallpaper is peeling off the walls. It's just, well, how old is this? Just don't know. And of course, it's haunted.
Very haunted. A few years ago, some friends were up here, teenagers, were messing around, playing with a Ouija board, calling for George Barlow to come forward and make himself known. At the exact moment they did that, all of the candles went out. They didn't stay to find out what happened after. Apparently they left.
I should think so as well. So, have other things happened to people up here? I mean, I know that there used to be, obviously, this window over here, for instance, looking out onto... What street are we down here?
That's right, we're looking down onto Bridge Street here.
Right, yeah. Apparently the curtains used to curtains do blow when windows are open, let's be honest.
Well, I mean, now the windows are broken and that sort of thing, but at this time the windows were quite tightly shut. For no reason at all, the curtains used to blow quite violently to quite a high level, and lots of people have seen this, including previous builders who've worked on this site, and they've all checked for drafts and couldn't find any. Wow.
So, I just can't believe it. Can you imagine the potential of sort of ghost tours if you were only allowed to bring them up to places like this?
That's right, it would just be amazing. Very, very atmospheric place.
Because I mean, one of the things that we've actually done today by coming and doing this tour with both you and Tom, which has amazed me, is we've actually enabled you, the tour guides, to actually come into these places.
That's right. I mean, very few times even us as tour guides are able to get into places like this, so the general public find it very, very difficult, and hopefully we can show them what's inside these buildings that we stop outside.
On video and DVD and in the book that's going to come out. So to be honest with you, we've done you a service in a way by coming here today.
And I've really enjoyed my day and been able to get inside these buildings.
Oh, it's been amazing for me as well. So I suppose we'd better just go on and find yet another haunted building and some more builders.
Lots of them in Chester.
Very close to the Eastgate clock, and rather an unusual place to be haunted, but Thornton's chocolate shop.
We have Thornton's behind us. My favourite shop in Chester for two reasons. First of all, the fabulous chocolates.
Yeah, of course.
Secondly, it's home to the ghost of Sarah, one of our poltergeists. Rather sad story. Sarah was engaged to one of these cads who live here in Chester.
Yep.
He stood her up on her wedding day, left her at the altar. She returned here to her home in her wedding dress and decided that she couldn't take life without him. She hung herself, and her ghost still haunts this building behind us today.
Right, now, I mean, where was it? Up on the top floor or second floor? Or
Thought to have been on the second floor level. Lots of paranormal activity happening here. In fact, an American tourist a couple of years ago in Chester was up on that floor and decided that she didn't believe in ghosts and said so out loud. She felt a very sharp push between her shoulder blades and ended up at the bottom of the stairs on her behind. And I think she left Chester believing in ghosts.
I can imagine that. Now tell me, you were telling me earlier about the things in the windows. Things actually revolve and move.
That's right. Strange things happen here on ghost tours. Quite often the window display, hanging things will move around as I start talking about Sarah. Quite often they'll stop and then start turning the other way. It's always good entertainment to the group. They always think that's part of the ghost tour.
Yeah, but I mean, there is obviously no draft or anything like that can cause it to happen, I presume.
No, I've been there and checked for drafts, and there's nothing at all that I can find. I really think it's paranormal activity.
Now, I can't believe we've come all the way from Derbyshire and we walk into a Thornton's shop. I mean, obviously all Thornton's chocolates are made near Alfreton in Derbyshire.
That's right, yes.
But a haunted Thornton's shop as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, has anything happened to you?
At Valentines, it's the main sort of time.
Well, that's what Claire was saying,
Sarah, the ghost's most active. All of the hearts tend to get thrown about, but rather than just falling onto the floor, you know, they're sort of strewn across the rest of the store rather than just being directly on the floor.
So we're not talking of something slipping off that's not been put up properly.
No.
We're talking of
sort of throwing
major poltergeist activity that goes on.
It's mainly at Valentines that happens, and you know, as soon as we start getting the hearts into the store, then they are sort of disarrayed off the shelves at times.
Really?
But also, you know, when customers have been in as well, they've said that they've sensed something not very nice here, and we get quite a lot sort of Americans and everything who are very interested in it.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes chocolates do just sort of fly off the shelf when we're actually serving customers, and we just joke about it now, saying it's Sarah throwing the chocolates around.
Oh, I say, that is fantastic. That's great. Well, I've never been inside a Thornton shop before, not up to the top floor and not into the storeroom. But I mean, is there a reason that we're in this room?
Yes, this is where Sarah actually hung herself. Supposedly there were beams across, and she actually hung herself in here.
And does anything happen? I mean, to yourselves, to the staff?
This is our staff room.
Right.
And, you know, quite often they say it goes very cold when they're up here, and they can almost see the breath when they're breathing, and they
really
sense, but only sort of at certain times, normally around Valentine's.
As usual,
yes.
And I mean, do things move or anything like that in here?
Things get knocked off the shelves in here, and, you know, coats and things like that are strewn across the floor.
Crikey. But I mean, she doesn't do any harm to anybody.
No, she doesn't hurt anyone at all. No.
I mean, you see, a lot of people think poltergeists are evil throwing things around. But I mean, this is only my theory.
Yeah.
I think she's actually trying to get people's attention.
Yes.
She wants you to know that she's still here.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably because she committed suicide.
That's right.
And she actually is trapped here because she daren't go, because she committed a sin, she's taken her own life. Hence the fact she's still haunting this place, and probably always will.
Yes.
Unless we get someone in to
that's right.
send her on her way.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, but then again, the only problem with that is you lose your ghost.
Yes, I know.
When you
It'd be a
lose
shame. We're quite attached to her now.
Exactly. So she's probably quite happy here, actually.
Yeah.
But what a lovely story. And Sue, thanks so much for actually letting us come inside.
You're welcome.
It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, now Claire, we're in St John's Street. I mean, this looks a very ordinary sort of pub. It's nice, it's old, but what's special about it?
It is. Well, it looks very innocent from the outside, but lots of hauntings happening inside, and especially in the cellar area. The story here that during Victorian times, a very prosperous pub, one of the best to visit anywhere in Chester.
Right.
But as times went on, the more and more people started leaving. The landlord was in severe financial trouble. His wife ended up leaving him for another man, and he faced the debtor's prison. And he decided that rather than go to the debtor's prison, he'd take his own life, and he did that down in the cellar in the pub. Apparently he took a barrel of his best ale, a big knife, leant over the barrel and slit his throat side to side, so quite a gory end for him.
Just a bit, yeah. And he still haunts the place,
He still
I
haunts
presume.
the place today.
Gosh.
Apparently the sign writer who wrote the sign has seen his ghost, although he wasn't able to tell anybody exactly what he'd seen.
But it's a special sign, is it not?
It's rather special. There's a rather special spelling of the word Marlborough. As you can see, we've got an extra OR in the word.
Oh, yeah.
The story goes that the sign writer got to the end of the first OR in the sign, decided it was lunchtime, went inside for a pint and a ploughman's. While the landlord was pulling his beer, the barrel went, and he asked the sign writer to go down in the cellar and change the barrel. 30 seconds after getting down into the cellar, he shot back up the stairs, left the pub. He was white, he was shaking, didn't want to talk about what he'd seen at all, just wanted to finish his work and leave Chester. And apparently he was so shaken he hadn't actually realised that he'd already half completed the sign.
And he did it again?
He did
2 ORs?
That's right.
So that really makes this pub very different, well, to any other pub in Chester.
Very different indeed, and it's really at the heart of people who live in Chester. A couple of years ago they tried to change the sign and put the spelling right, and the people in Chester were uproar about it, and it went back to the original wrong spelling.
Amazing. Well, shall we nip in and perhaps have a drink and go down and look in the cellar?
Okay.
Right, well, we're in the cellar of the Marlborough Borough, and with me, David Drew, you're the landlord. Now, you've only been here about...
Oh, it's less than 6 months.
Really?
Now, and incredible things are happening.
But you are a medium, spirit medium?
Yeah, I've been a medium, psychic all my life. I've been practicing for more than 30 years.
Wow.
I bought the pub more or less to semi-retire. I've been travelling the world for a long time.
Yes.
I've had enough of it. I thought I'd escaped that now. I thought I'd finish with all that. And I come in here to find all sorts of goings on.
Really?
Fascinating, I mean, not just me. I'm expected to hear and see and feel.
Yes,
things.
of course.
But members of staff, members of my family, my daughters in bed when I'd hear in beer barrels rolling around, and it was hard work at first. And I'm like, oh no, go back to sleep. Everything's okay, And then one night I came down here to do something with the beer, and I've had a long, hard day, and I'm hearing a voice. I didn't see anyone, but I'm hearing David, and I'm like, please, I've had enough. I'm too tired. I'll talk to you another day. I did what I had to do when I went back to bed. I've since had more time, and this was an ex-landlord. In fact, February 2005 we're in now, was February 1905, so it's 100 years ago that this landlord slit his throat, actually sat on a beer barrel.
What, here? In the cellar?
cellar, right where we stand. And he was suffering with some kind of a real depression. He was going through whatever it was he was going through. I don't have a problem with him, but he likes his cellar. He used to keep a good pint.
Right.
He's helping me because we keep the best pint in Chester.
Fantastic,
But
yes.
he slit his throat.
But it was a common thing, for people to do that. That was a way of committing suicide. God help them. No, I can't.
But,
no. Hanging and slitting a throat.
He is not like a bad ghost, a bad spirit.
No.
He's welcome to stay here.
Yeah.
And he likes it here. I'm getting along well with him now.
Crikey,
And that's just
me.
100 years ago. But I've only been here a few months, and it's like this is his cellar. So
yes.
I respect him for that.
This is probably why he's here, do you think? He loved the place, he was a good landlord, this was his life and his death, and he's still here.
He is, and he likes to be around, and I don't have a problem with him. But I say, at first it did spook my wife and my children, but I think they've got used to the idea now.
Yeah.
But very often of a morning they'll say to me, I heard him again last night rolling those barrels around.
Yeah, but you see, as you know only too well, people just tend to live with their ghosts. They talk to them, they accept them.
Yes.
You know, they once lived here, and it was once their building.
He will be helpful to us.
Yeah.
It's not a hindrance in any way, shape or form. I haven't actually seen him yet. I have seen sort of I see people in spirit very often. I haven't seen him, but clairaudiently I've heard him talking to me.
Yeah.
And he comes across as a helpful guy.
That is amazing. Fantastic. David, nice to meet you. Thank you very much indeed.
More time,
Thank you. Yes, love to.